You're under arrest for watching this review. Your punishment is you must watch the rest of this review.
Dang it. That's my second strike.
Well, too bad.
Oh,
There are
man.
very contradictory law
Oh, well,
enforcement
I'll
rules.
just pay the judge to remove one of them.
That only works in like California or Washington D.C. or Washington State or New York or Illinois or Ohio. It works in only some states. By that I mean a lot of them.
Not. Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about the Paul Blart Mall Cop duology.
Both of them. The two of them.
We're going to start with Paul Blart Mall Cop the first. What's the
The
story of
first.
this one?
So, Paul Blart, he's this. He's Kevin James.
And that's basically his
That's-
personality.
That's basically his character, yeah, because he's just Kevin James, and he's a mall security officer, specifically security officer. That's what they prefer to be called. And he wants to be a real cop, but he is not fit and has hypoglycemia and passes out a lot if he doesn't have sugar, and he's just kind of like super obsessed with his like mall rules and all, and is kind of a big dork, big loser. And so he meets this girl who works in the mall and is creepily into her and like watches her on the security cams a couple times, and it's kind of weird. So he hits on her, makes a total butt of himself several times, and then a bunch of thugs come into the mall and take it over, and it turns into a big hostage situation, and he's got to use his mall wits to save the day.
I remember really liking this one as a kid, but I gotta say, looking back on it, it's not as funny as I remember. I mean, I like it still, but in the way where it's like, I don't like all of it. It's very hit and miss.
For me, a lot of my enjoyment from this movie comes with, like, depending on who I'm watching it with, because several years ago, I was on vacation with some of my cousins, and we were trying to rent a movie to watch. We were looking for the Pink Panther, actually, but they didn't have it. And so we watched Mall Cop instead, because they had that there. And it was one of those nights we were all really tired, and literally everything was just hilarious. So we watched that movie, and of course we were all just tired out of our wits, and so it was just the funniest thing ever. So all we could do was quote it, so that movie is just kind of has a special place in my comedy heart.
Absolutely.
So I can't help but reference it and quote it, especially when I'm with the people that it applies with.
Absolutely.
Like, it when you look at it from an objective point, yeah, it is kind of sometimes it's just kind of like, that's dumb. It's I mean, it's an Adam Sandler movie. He's not in it, but he made it.
I was just
so.
going to make that point, actually. Even though Sandler himself is not in the movie, it reeks of his comedic style, both in a good way and a bad way.
Right, yeah.
Because like all the positives are there, like how he has some pretty expressive actors and stuff, but all the negatives are there, like the pretty flat characters that are basically just made to be the actors.
Right, yeah. And just kind of a lot of just like kind of lowbrow humor, which can be fun in a lot of scenes, and in other scenes can just kind of be cringy and just like,
Like, I can't think of any jokes that really die offhand, but like, there are more hits than misses, I think, but when it misses, it's just kind of like, oh, well, that could have been better.
right, yeah.
The only, like, closest thing to miss in my eyes might be the ethnic stereotype guy, but he is still pretty funny.
That guy's hilarious.
Like, I didn't like, I don't think it's funny at first, but as it goes on, I think I kind of like it. It's the opposite of what Rob Schneider does, where it's alright at first, but it just gets terrible. This I actually found, like, at first, and then it kind of grew on me.
Right, yeah. That's another one of the parts we quote a lot. That's one of
Peanut Blart and jelly.
yeah. Because that guy's just kind of a weirdo.
The villain was actually kind of a nice twist, too. While it doesn't take too long to reveal who it is kind of cool that it is the trainee.
Right, yeah.
And it is a surprise villain that we get to see very early on, so we actually get to develop his character, and it actually makes sense because he stays consistent, unlike what happens in things like Zootopia. or
Right.
say Big Hero 6. You heard that right. Paul Blart Mall Cop has better villain development than Big Hero 6 and Zootopia.
That feels weird to say, but like, yeah.
It is true.
Yeah, like even though the first like several scenes that we get of this guy are all just kind of an act, like, and then we see the other side of him. Like the other side of him isn't just, oh, I'm evil now, blah ha ha. It's actually like, okay, you get to see the actual evil character.
Exactly. And
so yeah.
The story itself is not really important, but the movie kind of knows that, because the only reason it's there is just to kind of be dumb and funny.
Right, yeah.
And for the
like
most part,
the
it
action
succeeds in that
parts
pretty
and all,
well.
like, like the action in it towards the end, like in the climax, even then most of it is just kind of like little slapstick things, like he like slides to like go behind the wall and then he just like stops and has to just kind of like scoot along the floor.
That's one of my favorite parts. That, and also when he gets like the
Yeah.
spray tan.
Right, yeah, the spray tan and all that. So like even still, when it's in the story, it's just kind of being dumb and goofy
Yeah.
on purpose.
And there's nothing wrong with that. A movie can strive for that. A lot of them have, and they've succeeded at it. Paul Blart Mall Cop doesn't always succeed, but when it does, it actually hits pretty strong. The sequel,
Right,
on the other hand, does not.
No, I would label the sequel as very extremely painfully mediocre.
It kind of
It's
more
not-
strikes to me as like what should have been one of those awful direct-to-video sequels like A Christmas Story 2 or Bigger, Fatter Liar.
Right.
Both of those are
Like-
real, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think the second one is just like flat out terrible, but there's just nothing about it that is really all that good. It's just kind of this big, fat, steaming pile of, yeah, that happened.
But it also kind of has no reason to exist, too.
Right.
All it really does
yeah.
is just kind of retread the stuff we've seen in the first, and that's the worst kind of sequel. The kind of sequel that doesn't have
Right.
any legs to stand on its own, and it has to rely on its
Right.
older brother.
Right. There are a couple jokes here and there that are actually pretty funny. Like the one in like the first scene when like when his mom is just like walking out to get the mail and just gets like hit by a truck. That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, that was kind of a nice surprise. And that's
Right,
a
yeah,
terrible thing
and-
to say, I know, but it was a decent
Yeah.
surprise gag. Let's phrase it like
Right.
that. Oh, no,
Yeah,
lady gets hit by a truck. That was a nice surprise.
But yeah, there's just some funny shock humor there. But like they did, I feel like kind of like in the starting scene, like they basically kind of have to start the movie by rewinding to the issues in the start of the first one, because like the love interest from the first movie just divorces him right at the start of the second, so we can just kind of restart with a new love plot and whatever.
And even
So,
then, because it's so fresh and so random, this whole like divorce conflict, you don't really feel for the character because you don't get to see what their marriage is like or anything. You don't really get
Right.
a taste for it. You just kind of like, oh, so everything we were fighting for in the previous movie was for nothing, huh?
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's like, oh, we can
Right.
do the same thing as the previous one, even though we don't really understand what made like certain parts work, even though we're the same people. It's just the best word I can use to describe the sequel is lacking.
Yeah, like I said, there's just nothing about it that makes it. There's just not really anything good about it, save for a few funny scenes here and there.
And no, we're
Like-
not going to describe the plot, because is that really important? We all know it's basically just the same thing.
It's the same as the first, except for now they're in a hotel.
Ooh! So it should be Paul Blart
and
Hotel
now-
Cop.
Right, and now Paul Blart is famous, and it goes to his head, and he just tries to compete with the other people by being a cooler cop than them. That's really the only new element to his character, which is not really anything, because he's always just been kind of a dork anyways, so...
Yeah, that's kind of nothing. And by kind of, I mean very nothing. You can basically watch the trailer to the movie and get the exact experience you would have just watching it.
Right.
It's one of those where all the few good parts were in the trailer.
Like, I am glad that I saw it, but like it didn't need to happen, and I'm not really gonna like revisit it all the time. Like, it's just. Also, I was a little disappointed that Pahood wasn't in it at all.
Nope.
Yeah, at least like for one scene, but no,
You know what I think
he wasn't.
one of this thing's biggest crimes is? Even if it is going to be a rehash, it came out too late. This came out in, like, what, 2015,
Right.
2016? The original came out in, like, 2008?
Yeah,
Something like
so
that. So this
by
came
that
out
point,
way
like,
too late.
right. So the first one was like just not relevant or important or really deserving of a sequel. Like, it was a really fun standalone movie, but not really worth making a second one at that point.
Yeah, and I think most people agreed with that because the second one did not do well at all.
Right. Like, when our family, we went to go see it, and we were all just kind of, because Mall Cop is kind of just like one of our family movies that we watch just because of weird memories. And we were like, oh, we need to go, like, all watch Mall Cop together because it'll just be like a big thing, a big momentous occasion. And we were all kind of just thinking, like, it's not going to be that good, but you know what? We kind of just have to go watch it. And we did. And we were like, yeah, it was basically what we were expecting. It's a movie. It's like maybe a solid, like, C plus, like slightly above average, if that. Like, it's still like a bad grade. Like, but it technically like does more that's like leaning towards good than it is bad, but it's not like it doesn't do anything that warrants like a good movie to exist. It's just like it happened.
Yeah, and by me saying it didn't do good, I mean critically. Commercially, it did okay. Critically, it has a 5% from critics and 34% from audience on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which I think is pretty. That's pretty. Like that's earned.
Yeah, I'd say so. So, final thoughts on the two films.
The first one, I'd say if you're into just turning your brain off and watching some stupid movie for a laugh, go for it. You'll have fun watching that and maybe cringe a little bit, but it's really funny where it lands. The second one, yeah, don't bother.
There's nothing that it can offer you that the first one won't give you. The first one's not going to be like but the second one will offer you nothing.
It's not going to be like a bad experience, but you're going to walk out of that and forget it in like a few days.
Because there's so much else you can do with your time.
Right. It's just kind of forgettable. Like, even after reviewing it, I don't even remember much, save for like a couple funny scenes. Like, there's a couple standout moments, but like even they aren't like they only stand out because the rest of it is just lacking.
Exactly, and I couldn't agree more. All right, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow for another set of two films that are a bit more incredible. Oops, I think I kind of gave it away.